The open sea was not just a stage for treasure and glory. It was a prison without walls where hunger, madness, and desperation could turn men into monsters. Among the darkest tales whispered in ports and taverns is one that chills sailors to their bones. The story of a pirate crew who mysteriously turned on each other and ate the flesh of their own shipmates alive. What could drive hardened pirates, men who braved cannon fire, storms, and execution, into the nightmare of cannibalism? Was it famine? Was it madness born from the endless horizon? Or was it something far more sinister, a curse that followed them across the waves? This tale is not for the faint of heart. It is a journey into the darkest corners of survival at sea. Tonight we unravel why one pirate crew mysteriously ate each other alive. It began as many pirate voyages did, with greed, ambition, and the promise of riches. The crew set sail from a hidden cove in the Caribbean, chasing rumors of a fat Spanish galleon heavy with silver. Their ship was swift, their spirits high, but fortune at sea is fickle. The galleon slipped away into storms, and the pirates found themselves lost in unfamiliar waters. Days turned into weeks. Their barrels of fresh water ran dry. Bread turned to stone, salted meat to rot. Scurvy gnawed at their gums. And worst of all, no port, no island, no salvation appeared on the horizon. At first they clung to hope. They rationed, they fished, they prayed. But the sea gave them nothing. Hunger hollowed their bellies. Thirst cracked their lips. Men began to hallucinate, seeing feasts where only waves rolled. Quarrels broke out. Knives were drawn over crumbs. The voyage of fortune had turned into a voyage of doom. It happened quietly, almost mercifully. A deckhand collapsed, his body wasted by hunger. At first the men mourned him. They wrapped him in canvas, preparing to give him to the sea. But then, hesitation. A whisper spread among them. Why feed the waves when flesh could feed them? No one wanted to speak it aloud. Cannibalism was an unspeakable crime, the final line no sailor dared cross. But starving eyes stared at the corpse. The smell of salt and sickness filled their lungs, and temptation clawed at their souls. Finally, one pirate made the choice. With trembling hands, he cut. They ate in silence, shame hidden beneath desperation. Some vomited after the first bite, others wept. But the hunger was stronger than morality. Once that line was crossed, there was no turning back. After the first bite, something inside the crew broke. Hunger had driven them across a line that no man was meant to cross. And with that line erased, the descent into madness was swift. No longer were they brothers bound by loyalty. They were starving predators circling each other. The corpse of one deckhand could not sustain a ship of dozens. Soon men began watching one another with suspicion. The weakest became targets. A cough, a stumble, even a fainting spell could mark a man for death. And death no longer meant a shroud in the sea, it meant dinner. The whispers grew louder. Some claimed the meat gave them strength. Others said it carried curses, bringing nightmares of the souls they had devoured. At night, the deck echoed with screams as men fought over scraps of flesh. Rum was drained not for celebration, but to numb the horror of what they had become. By the second week, the ship no longer felt like a vessel. It was a floating madhouse. Faces sunken, eyes hollow, men muttering to themselves in madness. The captain tried to restore order, but even he was powerless. His commands ignored, his threats mocked. Fear had become the only law, and hunger its executioner. And if this chilling tale has gripped you, don't forget to like this video, comment with your thoughts, and subscribe for more haunting stories from the age of piracy. The crew was no longer a crew. They had become scavengers, circling one another like wolves on a shrinking island. Every night, another man disappeared, not overboard, but into the shadows of the hold, where knives and teeth waited. The ship reeked of salt, blood, and decay. Some pirates began carving flesh while the victims still breathed, too weak to fight back. Cries echoed across the deck, unanswered. Men who once laughed together, who once sang sea shanties in the glow of lanterns, now tore into each other with wild eyes and trembling jaws. Rumors spread among survivors that the ship was cursed. They spoke of ghostly figures watching from the waves, of voices whispering in the storm, urging them to feed. But the curse was not in the sea. It was in their own hunger, a hunger that stripped away humanity until nothing remained but instinct. By now, even the captain's authority had collapsed. His sword could not stop the mutiny of desperation. He too fell victim, dragged into the shadows by men he once commanded. The pirates feasted not as comrades but as beasts, and in that moment, the ship became a floating hell, a place where the living envied the dead. By the time the sun rose on the final week, only a handful of pirates remained. Their eyes were hollow, Their skin clung to bone, and their sanity was gone. They no longer spoke in words but in snarls and whispers. They prowled the deck like predators, each step echoing with paranoia. Two men claimed they saw ghosts walking between the masts at night, the faces of those already eaten returning to haunt them. Others swore they heard the ocean whispering promises, that if they continued to feast they would live forever. Madness and hunger had fused until there was no difference between hallucination and reality. In the end, only two survivors remained. One collapsed, too weak to stand. The other crouched beside him, knife trembling in hand. Witnesses would later claim that when rescue finally came, the deck was slick with blood, and one pirate was found gnawing the bones of his last companion. His face was blank, eyes empty, as if no humanity remained within him. Those who rescued him never forgot what they saw. Some believed he had been cursed by the devil himself. Others swore no curse was needed. Starvation alone was enough to turn man into monster. Whatever the truth, one fact remained. An entire crew had vanished, consumed not by the sea but by themselves. The story of the pirate crew who ate each other alive remains one of the sea's darkest mysteries. Some believe it was nothing more than starvation, the cruel hand of nature forcing desperate men into unthinkable acts. Others insist it was madness, born from isolation and despair. And there are those who whisper of a curse, that the crew had angered the sea itself, and their fate was not survival, but damnation. The lone survivor was tried in a colonial court. His testimony was confused, broken by madness. He spoke of voices on the wind, of ghostly faces in the waves, of hands dragging him into the hold to feast. The judges declared him insane, and he vanished from history. But the legend of his crew lived on. Sailors told their tale in hushed voices, warning green hands what hunger at sea could do. Captains stocked their ships with more food and water, terrified of repeating the horror. And yet, even today, the sea still tests those who dare cross it. Hunger, thirst, and fear remain as dangerous as cannon fire. Perhaps the truth will never be known. Were they victims of starvation or prisoners of their own haunted minds? One thing is certain, their ship never reached port, their treasure never found, and their names never carved in glory. Instead, they are remembered only as shadows on the water, the cursed crew who mysteriously ate each other alive.